Hey guys, welcome to the second part of the second episode of the Mayank show featuring Loco. So first of all, thank you so much for showing that much love to the first part of the episode. And in this part of the episode, we have talked about a lot more interesting things with Loco. And yeah, one more thing. This podcast is also available on all the major audio platforms. So if you want to hear it out on that platforms, all the links are given down below in the description box. So guys, without any further ado, let's roll the intro. Sir, in your case, I can see that you didn't have any kind of CS degree and you didn't have any kind of formal education in terms of engineering. So, but still you make it to the one of the FANG company, that is Amazon. You are currently in AWS, right? So, what do you think is the importance of having a CS degree for anyone to apply for IT industry jobs? And is it really very important, or would boot camps work for the same?
Yeah, so I'm gonna only speak to the American market and what I've seen. I don't know about in different countries and how they handle things there. So in the American market, I would say that CS degrees are not necessary in general. Like, you do not need one in order to get hired at a FANG company. Now keep in mind that I am a developer advocate and not an iOS engineer at AWS, but still I think that not having a CS degree, like if I were to apply for an engineering position,
right,
I could potentially get hired without the CS degree, and I don't think that it's going to be a real determining factor when it comes to whether they hire me or not. A lot of the stuff is going to take place in how you answer interview questions and depend on if they are going to do a whiteboard interview and how you perform on that. So it all comes down to the interview itself. So unfortunately, in this tech industry, you're kind of forced to learn data structures and algorithms, which you get a much better, stronger, solid foundation in when you go to a college and get a CS degree, right? Like, you have a better understanding of that because it's usually like a whole entire course. But it's something that you could also choose to learn on your own. It's much more difficult to learn on your own, but you can do it. And realistically, it's really going to come down to luck, unfortunately, because you can practice, leak code for 50 hours a week for 3 months, and you could go through all the different questions, and you could get them all memorized and down. But then when you get to the interview, they're going to ask you a different question that you haven't done before.
Exactly.
And you only have 45 minutes to figure it out. So honestly, it comes down to luck. If it comes to like doing a whiteboard interview, that's how I feel about it. And what I can say is practice the other interview skills, and even if you're bold enough, ask to do a take-home interview if they allow that, because I feel like a lot of the time, you're put in a situation during an interview to where things are already stressful enough. You're asked to do a whiteboard on data structures and algorithms where it has like almost zero application to iOS development, and it doesn't necessarily show your skill set. So, if you're not going for one of the FANG companies, then the interviewers might be open to doing a take-home project as opposed to the whiteboard. If you're going to a FANG company, they're going to do the whiteboard.
So what is a take-home project interview way? What is a take-home?
So sometimes, depending on the company, what they'll do is they'll ask you to essentially perform a task or create like a miniature version of an app that does a specific thing, and they want to see how you implement that, because then you're actually working directly with an iOS related project, which is similar to what you're probably going to be doing while you're working there. And it will essentially it will lead to another interview to where they ask you why you did things this way and what would happen
Right.
if we needed to add a feature to this or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way. But if you're going for a FANG company, you don't have any room to ask. You're just one of thousands of people that are gonna apply, and
Right.
you're just gonna have to go through the ringer.
And I think for a FANG company, you also need to have some competitive coding done, like coding challenges. You need to practice that as well. Because what I think and what I have heard, that it plays a major role in your interviewing
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, I know here at
Yes.
Amazon, I think that they do like probably two or more interviews for the engineers. Luckily, as a developer
Mm-hmm.
advocate, I didn't have to go through it. I even told my manager that I was like, if there's a technical interview, I just simply will not pass it. Like I know how to do stuff, but that's the only thing that would
Right.
stop me from being able to get hired. I know how to answer
Right.
interview questions. I'm not a crazy person, so there shouldn't be any problem there. But if I have to do a technical interview, I promise you I will not pass that interview.
Right. So you were lucky enough to not get into that process of coding challenges and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, there are these two paths that one can take. One might go for a complete core software engineering role. Then he need to do this thing, like he has to go through this path of coding challenges. But there are many other options as well. Like in India, I believe most of the people don't know about this developer advocate role. For the first time, I also heard this from your video, that you have been hired on such a role. Then I searched it. Then you also explained it, that what is it exactly. Then I came across this and I finally got to have a feel of it, that what is it exactly. So can you please tell our audiences that what is it and what is developer advocate profile?
Yeah, so like once again, I work at AWS and I work on
Mm-hmm.
one of the teams at AWS. So the team that I'm working on is the Amplify team. Now Amplify is
Mm-hmm.
like a tool set that allows you to essentially do development and create backends for your app much quicker. Now my
Mm-hmm.
my job is to kind of stay in contact with the iOS community.
Mm-hmm.
It's also to teach the iOS community how to take advantage of Amplify. And
Mm-hmm.
then, but not only Amplify, but also help the community in other areas that might not be related to Amplify. So
Right.
it's essentially like AWS is having me be out there for the iOS community and help support in ways that I can, and then also
Mm-hmm.
show them the light, which is AWS Amplify, which can help speed
Mm-hmm.
up development processes like authentication and storage and things like that. Because
Mm-hmm.
in the past, if you've worked with AWS on a native platform, whether it's iOS or Android, it was extremely difficult. Well,
Yes,
now
I
they
have.
they built Amplify
Mm-hmm.
to essentially make it so that you can use AWS services, which I think is pretty well known. AWS is it's a pretty gold standard if you ask me. But
Right.
essentially, it makes it easier for front end devs, mobile devs to work with AWS
So you
services.
guys are trying to make it more developer friendly so that more people can come on board to use this rather than any other option,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and that's kind of like what led to me like doing that YouTube video on making a TikTok clone. Like I had the idea, I was like, I'm gonna try to make TikTok, and I was able to do it in
Right.
like 24 hours because setting up a back end that's going to store my data, save my video
Mm-hmm.
files, and then be able to show all that information. Like I was able to
Mm-hmm.
build like a mini TikTok clone in 24 hours because of it. So
Right.
it essentially that's what the role is. It's kind of like showing off this really cool tool and
Mm-hmm.
like hearing the feedback from the community on ways that we can improve, because
Mm-hmm.
surprisingly like AWS is actually extremely like customer focused. It's kind of weird because
Mm-hmm.
like yeah, you expect a corporation to want to just always be making money, but
Right.
money is like not the determining factor on the decisions that are being made at this company, which is really weird. it's like always like, how can we help the customer? What are they saying? Oh, is this coming up a lot? Then we need to fix this. And it's kind of like I'm kind of the person that's going to be like out on the front lines for the iOS community to kind of get that feedback and then take it internally so that we can make those changes. So that's kind of what my role is as a developer advocate.
So for that, I can say that that's why they are what they are exactly. And that's why they are different. They observe the customer behavior and they grow according to that.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know how the other companies work internally, but if I had to guess, I wouldn't say that they work like this. Like, this is just like not the way that I would expect a large company to be ran, so driven by customer feedback, because it's like the number one thing that everybody's focused on is customer feedback. And
Right.
as a big company, you obviously have to do that, but I think to the extent that AWS does it, it's like very different. It's just like eye-opening. It's weird, to be honest. It's weird, like how customer focused they are. It's cool though. It's cool because it makes it so that like the customers win. So yeah, like and I love the fact that I'm on this team because I did a video on how to use AWS the SDKs like a couple of years ago, and it was painful and it sucked and it was so hard to do. And like even during the video, I was complaining about. I was like, man, like I don't know who would want to do this. This is so painful. And
But now you are on the other
and
hand,
now
right?
I'm on the team that is like putting a replacement out for that video, where everything
Right.
is so like so much easy. Like it's just easy. It's like it feels native. It feels natural. And yeah, like honestly, I enjoy where I'm at. I'm happy where I'm at. I love it. And I think it's a really
So
cool
why do you
product.
love, sir? Why do you love Amazon? What is that one thing that makes you love Amazon?
Well, I wouldn't say like I love Amazon. I love the job that I have, right? Like
You love the environment
I love
that
the
they give
environment
you.
and I love the product that we're building. Like you know, I use Amazon for like all my shopping and I ended
Uh-huh.
up with Echoes even before I got hired and stuff like that. So I definitely tend to choose Amazon a lot of the time, but I wouldn't say that I love Amazon like the same way that I love Apple. Like I'm an Apple fanboy at heart. Now that's kind of been diminishing with like things like I can't afford the HomePod. It's just way too expensive, right? So I ended up getting like the Echoes,
And what about the AirPods Max?
the AirPods Max. Yeah, like I mean, I got an AirPod in right now. You know, like
Yeah.
I still, you know, but yeah, like I really do like Amazon and I really do like AWS. I love Amplify and I love my job. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where I stand.
And I think that's what is important at the end of the day. You must love what you are doing. I mean, not just earning the money, you are also enjoying your life along with that. Most of
Exactly.
the time, what happens is people are complaining about the job and doing it just because they are getting money out of it, and it is required to make their livelihood good, right? So, sir, what has been your networking strategy? Do you have any networking strategy? I mean, in your case, we can say that you already have a network set up since you already a popular guy in the industry. So, what kind of strategy would you recommend someone to grow in terms of network? How can they network through YouTube, through LinkedIn, through some other platforms that you prefer to?
So yeah, it's kind of hard for me to say because like I don't have to start from scratch, right? Like I built my
Mm-hmm.
network through YouTube. YouTube came first, the network
Right.
came second, right? So if you're going to start doing something like, and once again, I recommend that you do YouTube or you create a blog or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
because it's going to bring people to you. But if you don't want to do like one of those things, whether it be a blog or a podcast or something like that, another way to network would be to join meetups, right? Like
Okay.
obviously not like a physical one right now. I don't recommend anybody
Mm-hmm.
going meeting anybody physically right now.
Right.
Wear a
Right.
mask. But there are virtual meetups. Like there's this guy Alan from the iOS community where he started this iOS like happy hour or something like that, and he started
Okay.
that like maybe like 2 months ago. And the first meeting was like, I think he got like maybe like 100 people in it, because people are
Okay.
so like in the need to be around other people right now. Like there's such a strong desire to like communicate and meet new people, because that's been taken away from so many people, especially developers, because we can work from home. So obviously we're
Right.
forced to work from home. And
Right.
and you can start something like that, or you can simply just join something that exists like that. So you can join
Mm-hmm.
the iOS happy hour, or you can start your own happy hour. It doesn't even have to be happy hour. It could just be like iOS
You can
hangouts
name
or
it
something
anything
like that.
about, yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that was like the other way that I was doing a lot of physical networking like a couple of years ago. Was I was doing a lot of
Mm-hmm.
meetup events. I had even created my own meetup
Mm-hmm.
where I was trying to do it closer to me, but I mean, it didn't end up working out. But yeah, if you can,
Okay.
if you can go to meetups, if you could do virtual meetups, and then after everybody has a vaccine, physical meetups
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that, um, that's probably one of the best ways to network. The next best way to network would be to make sure that you're on Twitter. I think that there's a strong iOS community on Twitter. I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
were able to reach out to me, and we're able to have this podcast because of Twitter.
Right.
So
Right.
I think there's a strong community on Twitter, and I would say like start following the iOS community, and then just chime in here and there. And if you can, I would highly recommend that you put out something that's valuable. Whether it be like an uplifting post, like you just try to bring people's spirits up, or you just post maybe like a cool code snippet of something that you learned in Swift today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just
Mm-hmm.
like something that
Like
other
you did some a couple of days before.
yeah, I mean, I do like random stuff all the time. I don't know.
Right.
I don't really keep track of it, but yeah, like it could just be anything. There's so many people that would be grateful for people that continue to put out Swift content and show cool new
Mm-hmm.
learnings.
So, sir, what is that one thing that you are most passionate about? I would say what I think it is code, and you also write on your YouTube channel as well. You write code passionately, right? So, when it comes to code, we can talk about iOS development as well, because you are basically an iOS developer first, and after that, all those things that you know, right? So, what is that one thing that you would aspire or you would dream to build using your skills? What would be that one thing?
The one thing that I dream to build
Yeah,
um,
as a dream project.
as a dream project. Well, I don't really have like one thing, because I don't actually enjoy the product that's being built.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy the puzzle of putting things together.
Okay.
So that's actually why I enjoy. That's why I say code passionately in my videos, is because I feel that coding can be so enjoyable just in itself without necessarily having a specific end goal. Like obviously at the time you need to have
Mm-hmm.
a specific end goal, whatever you're building.
Right.
But what I enjoy the most about it is that I look at coding as being like putting together a puzzle. And the longer that you do this, usually the more things that you learn, and it's like you have
Mm-hmm.
more puzzle pieces that you can use. And then when you start putting
Right.
these puzzle pieces together, and they can go in any number of positions, it builds a different picture every time. And then sometimes you find out like there's
Right.
even different ways that you could put them together. So when it comes to what is the dream thing that I want to build, I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't say it's like actually a physical thing. It's not like an end product. It's not like the number one app. It's
Okay.
just like really understanding deeper and more advanced concepts, and like learning how to put those puzzle pieces together, and then maybe even providing some type of open source project that puts those pieces
Okay.
together for you, and find out that, hey, I was able to help all these developers because I learned something really cool. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I would say. Now, if I had to narrow it down to something physical, I would say maybe like my own course app.
Okay.
Like it would be really cool to build out an entire course platform on the web that is matched with an app, and all that stuff works like seamlessly, where you could track progress and things like that. And I think that would be like if I could build that out, I think that would be really cool. The problem there is like dealing with people with payment processing, which I've done, and it is scary as hell because you're dealing with people's money, and I don't want to.
Right.
I don't want to make a mistake there, right? So that's kind of like the only thing that's kind of been holding me back. I've played with the Stripe API, but it's just like, you're dealing with people's money. You better not get it wrong.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. Completely agree to that. And also, by listening to your answer, I can just observe that you have this skill, the teaching skill, you have this coding skill. And if we mix both of them and see your future, if we just observe what you just said, then I can say you are kind of going to build a kind of academy that would provide these kind of courses. And since you are passionate about coding, right? You also talked about how puzzles interest you and, make you curious. So I think in near future, maybe you would be having kind of academy where you would be teaching maybe through online mediums, or if things goes well and we got all these vaccine things done, then probably offline academy as well. So that's what my observation says about you, since I just heard of all your answers.
Yeah, so I would say that 2021 is going to be a pretty big year, and a step in that direction. The plan is to really focus on courses. Now that it is technically my job, and that's something that I could just spend my full time working on.
Right.
I think that 2021 is going to be the year. 2020, I wanted it to be the year, it being a nice round number, 2020. I think everybody wanted it to be different, but with everything that was going on here in the States, there has been a dramatic mental toll on me. Also, not being able to interact with anybody kind of doused my fire, that kind of my passion to continue to build. It's hard to just always be in front of the computer, but not ever being in front of somebody face to face. And it's dramatically affected my ability to do output. It was much more mental this year than I thought. And now that I can see that there's light on the horizon, there's a vaccine, the U.S. has gone through its election. I think that 2021 is going to be.
These are some major things that are, putting up these positive vibes ahead. And we can see the future ahead could be a much better one if we compare it to the 2020.
Correct. Yeah. I think it's just going to be a great change.
Yeah. And also for those who don't know Sir that much and they only have viewed Sir's video on YouTube, they might be thinking that Sir is an extrovert kind of person and he would be like, hey, what's up? Yes, your boy Kilo Loco and all that thing. But in person, I just came to know that Sir is an introvert, and I think it would be a surprise for many to hear that, because it was for me, as since I am a follower of Kilo Loco Sir. So have you seen any kind of friction because of this nature or something, or if any, then how did you overcome that?
So while I consider myself an introvert, I don't think that it usually affects the situations that I'm in. And the reason for that is because I do have this other side of me that can be like any range of an extrovert that it needs to be. And
okay, so you can switch off and switch on
those
buttons.
Yeah, but it really comes down to like the situation that I'm in, right? When I'm around other people, I understand that I need to take a step back. And that's where my introvert side comes in, right? I need to take a step back and I just need to observe like what's going on in front of me. Because depending on who's in the room, you can and cannot say different things, or you can and cannot act
Right.
specific ways, right? The boss walks into the room. You can't be like, "Hey, what's going on? It's your boy Kilo Loco." You know, like the boss doesn't want to see that, right?
That's the CS. That's the
So
common sense, right?
so you need to kind of take a step back and observe like what's going on, and then like
Right.
kind of understand what the boundaries are and what can and can't be said around specific people. And then also understand that like we live in a time where everybody just seems a little bit more sensitive, and you know, I try to take that into account whenever I speak to somebody, especially somebody new, right? Like I don't know what not that I'm going to say anything terrible, but there's like just things that you need to really take into consideration based off of who's sitting in front of you. So that's kind of
Right.
like that's why you know, I tend to be more quiet, especially when you first meet me. And the entire reason behind that is like I need to understand who I'm talking to, because while you think that you might know me, I know nothing
Right.
about you. And
That's
I need
that's
to make
right.
sure that something that comes out of my mouth doesn't offend you, or make it seem like I'm a bad person either. Like I said, I don't think that I would naturally say something that would offend anybody, but there are areas that you just need to be a little bit extra sensitive sometimes, and those are the
So you kind
boundaries
of
I try to.
analyze the situation
Exactly.
first. I mean, I can say that in formal meetings, you first analyze the things, like what, how do you need to react, and how would they are expecting you to react. According to that, you play your game, right? I
Yeah,
mean, play your game
exactly.
is not
And
that
and
right word, but yeah.
and yeah, and the person like that you see on the YouTube video, it's not like it's an act, right? It's just a different piece of me that I generally only let out when I'm
So that
alone.
is one part of your personality.
Exactly. And that part I don't necessarily even let out around my family a whole lot. You know,
Right.
when I work inside, when I'm working, I let that part out a lot. Like I'll just be coding,
Okay.
and then like something weird will just come out of me, and then you know, it'll be that. And when I work
Right.
here in my office, that's perfectly fine. Nobody's here, right? When I'm doing a video, and you know, and I'm recording, I'm here by myself. I don't have to worry about it, right? But sometimes I'll
Right.
work inside in my house, and my wife will be
Uh-huh.
walking by, and then I'll just let something go, and she's like, "Man, you're so weird sometimes." And I'm like, "Yeah, so what? You're stuck with me." But
Likewise, we are different with our friends, and we are different with our family. In the same way, we can just conclude this thing that you have these kind of things which generally people have. Like in my case, I can say that I react differently with my friends, and when I come back to home, I'm a different person. Not altogether, but yes, there is a side that I show only to my friends only,
absolutely,
not to my family. Yeah,
it's
so
exactly
I can
that. It's
understand.
exactly that.
So sir, this thing also makes me come to the thing that how much important is soft skills in the IT industry or in general in the life? How much important is it? What do you think?
It's pretty important, especially when you're working on a team. I think that it becomes even more important. So soft skills are definitely important during the interview process. Nobody wants to hire somebody that's just a bad person, right? Like mean or whatever. And and what you have to really watch out for is like if your personality tends to rub people the wrong way, you better make sure that you are very good at what you do, and you're able to show that you're very good at
Right.
what you do.
You need to cover up from that part.
Exactly. And but you need to understand that you could be the best person in the world, and if you are just too much on that bad side, and you rub people the wrong way, then they just won't hire you.
Right.
It really comes down to that, because usually you're working on a team, and it's a team effort, and if you're the person that everybody's struggling to interact with to get things done, then it's going to make everybody else on the team miserable, and they're almost better off with somebody less skilled than somebody that's
Right.
just rude and really
I
good
mean,
at their job.
average skilled with some team qualities. I mean, some you can say a team player kind of thing, and average skills would be preferred over a person who has high skills and technical stuff and is bad at, this team player thing.
Yeah, and I've seen this before. Like, I think that when you rub people the wrong way,
Mm-hmm.
but you're very good at what you do,
Mm-hmm.
and let's say that you're supposed to be in like a senior role, it makes it harder
Okay.
for the juniors to come to you. Or if you're looking to go from that junior role into a senior role, it makes you be skipped over as a consideration because you wouldn't be a good senior, which a senior is supposed to be
Right.
teaching the juniors how to, do things and like how to work together and kind of be like the team leader. So
Right.
these are things that people should
Even when
definitely
we
consider.
go out, I mean, even if we don't talk about the professional world, even when we go out to play with our friends or something, then also these things come out of us. Like, this is a part of our personality that we need to have. This thing called leadership, or you can say having a good connect with the team, is kind of a inbuilt thing that you need to have if you want to work somewhere and if you want to work in a team. Some people think that they are the one man army and they can do all that stuff. But at one point of time, everyone needs someone to collaborate and to just cooperate with them. So that is why what I think is the importance of soft skill is that you need to have such kind of skills to sustain, at the same time make other people also comfortable about you.
Yeah, exactly. If people aren't comfortable around you, it's going to be a hindrance on your career growth. And in
Hmm.
general, I mean, feel free to, like, you should be able to be you, but at the same time you have to also take into consideration who you're around. And if
Right.
you're just going to let it all go and you're just going to be you, and that you tends to rub people the wrong way, then you need to
Hmm.
understand that there's consequences for that. So
Hmm.
it's like you have to choose, you have to pick your battles. Like, are you going to suppress some of you so that you can be a better team player or whatever it is, so that you can move up? Or are you going to be authentic to yourself, and but like that may mean that you
And take them
don't
together to
progress
grow.
as fast or at all? So
Hmm. Hmm.
you have to choose.
That's your choice.
Yeah.
Right. And sir, you are one of those persons I've seen on social media, especially on Twitter. I'm talking that I've seen most of the people who have this kind of repo in some kind of industry or in some kind of field. They don't generally prefer to comment on things which are politically aligned or something related to politics, right? But I have seen you standing out for things that are right and that you think are right. So I've seen that having a strong opinion about things in you, which I don't see in many of the people, just because, maybe just because they don't post it so that other companies that come around their profile don't get offended, right? So what is that one thing that makes you do that, that you are there for the right whenever it needs?
Um, just quite simply because I feel that it is right, and like specifically to like kind of what you're referring to is like the Black Lives Matter
Mm-hmm.
thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Right.
when George Floyd died here in the States,
Mm-hmm.
this was, I think, an eye-opening event to to a lot of people. And
Right.
you know, it's something that somebody that has a skin tone like mine or darker has to deal with. And I grew up knowing that
Mm-hmm.
whenever I get pulled over by a cop,
Mm-hmm.
I need to show them the utmost respect, because if I don't, they can have any number of reasons to send me to jail or shoot me. And this is something that I grew up understanding just because of the color of my skin. And then when you see this 9-minute long video of a man with a knee on the back of his neck saying that he
Right.
can't breathe, it's crazy. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And you know I needed to make sure that people were aware of this, and I was posting as much as, like, whenever something came across my feed, I would retweet it, and I made sure that people that were in my network saw what I was seeing, and hopefully understand how people that look like me feel when stuff like this happens. And unfortunately, the majority of the Swift community, especially like the influencers, did not share anything about this.
No, they didn't.
And
I mean, I follow a lot of people in Swift community and especially in iOS, but I have seen only, if I name someone, then I would say you only, who was there to stand for what you think is right.
no, Paul Hudson also stood for the right. He put out a little
Maybe
bit.
I missed.
Yeah, he put out a little bit of stuff on it too. I don't think he covered anything that was like BLM or anything like that, but he's like he posted something that, you know, made me feel comfortable knowing that he understands that these things are not right. Right? But he was the only person that I saw do that. And when
I think the main reason behind why other people don't do that maybe is because their social media influence, or maybe it's because they are bound to some things and they cannot, if they will comment on such things, they might get into trouble. So I think that is the main factor because of which they don't comment on anything on it.
No, but
Be it for it or against
so I understand that, right? But so if you do not post on it, if you don't post anything about it, then I immediately have reason to think that, hey, maybe you believe the other side is right.
Right.
And maybe you think that this is okay. And that was extremely disappointing from the Swift community, and I'm gonna just leave it at that. Like, I was extremely disappointed in the Swift community, and there's people that I just will not like talk to or reach out to, just because I don't know where they stand. Like, they didn't post anything in between now and what was it? I think it was May 25th when it happened. Nothing has been posted about any of this, and I just don't know where they stand, and it makes me feel as if, you know, because of my skin, I may be looked at differently by somebody in the Swift community, and that's extremely unfortunate.
I mean, I can feel you on that because the coverage of that incident was also covered here on our media channels as well. So we had a good amount of understanding about what is happening, and we can also see on the television that how things get politicized when such thing happens, how protests, you know, are turned into a violence by just putting some dummy guys over there and doing things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, people who have this sanity can understand things quite correctly, but it's up to their choice that if they want to comment about it or not.
Yeah. And
Right.
you know, I don't want to get too political. It's just, this was something that was important to me and the black community, which there aren't that many black people in tech or in Swift. And, you know, it's like, it kind of speaks to how things have been handled in the past. And if we want this to change, then we need to understand that things aren't perfect and that there needs to be some change. And
we also need to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of the time we resist to talk about it just because we see it as an issue and not look after the resolution of it.
Exactly.
Right? So to resolve it, we need to talk about it.
Exactly. And just like be honest about it. Like that's all there is to it. Like, just be honest. Like understand that, yeah, like the majority of tech is probably white, you know? When I go and get hired at a job, I'm not likely to see another black face or Hispanic face on the team. And that's just the reality. So, and I understand that, like, people have different backgrounds, and like, it's not necessarily anybody's fault per se, but it's something that we need to just be aware of and realize that it is a problem that we need to overcome in the long haul.
Yeah, I mean, like, we are completely on a different note, but this is important to address as well.
Yeah, you know, I think any number of of races have come into like contact with the situation, especially in the U.S. You know, and it's unfortunately it's like it's been turned very political. It's like if you follow one set of politics, then you're almost forced to believe all these other different things, and it's like
Right.
it's not that black or white.
Right.
It's not just red or blue. It's like there's a lot of shades in between, and just because you believe some set of principles doesn't mean that you have to believe all different types
Right.
of things, but be open to the things that are right and the things that are
And I
wrong.
believe that not talking about it would not help. At least talking about it would somewhat make a difference. At least you are standing for something, be it right or wrong. But not talking about it looks like as if you don't care about what things are happening around you.
Exactly, and that's exactly how I felt when I saw that nobody else in the Swift community was, nobody else that was not black did not post.
Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
I mean, that came to your mind. Maybe that's why they are not commenting about it.
Exactly. So it's like I don't feel comfortable reaching out to anybody else in the Swift community if they're not a minority. So in general, like I don't put it on myself to reach out. That's all.
But I'm all in.
Yeah, you're all in. You're all good.
Yeah. Okay. So, sir, what would be that one advice that you would like to give the 18 years old version of Kylie?
18 years old, man, just start learning
Version of
code.
you.
Oh my god. The fact that I didn't know code when I was 18 is just, man, I wish I would have known it when I was that young. I wish I would have known it sooner. But I guess I would say like not only learn code but also like start a social network, like start building up a reputation, right? Like that's
Okay.
the only thing that's one thing that could only get better with time is a reputation if you continue to build on it. So like if I could have started YouTube back then, I would say start YouTube.
Was YouTube there at that time?
Yeah, YouTube has been around since 2005 or something like that.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
now the amount of coverage on topics didn't really start until like maybe like obviously until after Swift was released. Then there was videos, but like yeah, just covering topics on coding. That's what I would recommend. Like if I could start sooner, the better. Whether that be YouTube or articles or writing books or something like that.
So, sir, why did you choose to start off your job with a restaurant at the first place? Like, was you not aware about the opportunities that you had, or were you like going with the flow at that point of time?
The reason why I started at the restaurant was just simply because I needed a job. I think I was out of work at the time, and at that time I was 18. So I had, yeah. So it was like 18.
You
it was
didn't
like
think much
2009.
at that
Yeah,
point.
it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was like I just needed a job. I needed money so that I can go out and do whatever I wanted to do. So,
Right.
yeah, I had quit one job. It was like I had to wake up early and go inventory stuff at stores, and then I had quit that. Like it was just boring. I hated it. And then after that, like I finished up high school
Uh-huh.
or no, I finished up like a semester of college or something like that, and then I got hired at a
Okay.
restaurant.
So you have been to college?
I went to college. Yeah, so I have an associate's degree in psychology, which is
Okay.
completely
In
useless.
psychology, all right.
You can't.
Yeah.
You actually can't do anything with that degree. But I did try to go to college because my parents wanted me to go to college. It was important to them. So I got an associate's degree. That's like it took me 3 years to get an associate's degree. It's supposed to be a 2-year degree, and then
Oh my God.
I went to a private university for a semester and then dropped out. It was still for psychology. But
Okay.
I realized like there was like a lot of things that I didn't like about college. Like it was too easy for that specific field. I felt like they were like holding my hand through I thought it was gonna be hard, like in the movies, but I just didn't have like a good experience. It was expensive. My sister was also going to school
Mm-hmm.
at a Ivy League school, so my parents were gonna have to pay for that, and it was like there was like a lot of different things that came into my mind
Mm-hmm.
about it. But overall, I just didn't like it, so I dropped out. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, so yeah,
So dropping out of college is a normal thing there, I think.
yeah,
Or
college is not taken seriously, nearly as seriously, in the States as most other countries. I think dropping out is
okay.
like very common. Never having gone to college is common.
Dropping out is like a trend in India. If someone has dropped out of college, then he must be having a startup. So it's that kind of
Uh,
thing. You dropped out of college, now you're an entrepreneur. That's why you dropped out of
Yeah,
college.
not necessarily here. It's just like, oh, you just didn't feel like going to college just because you didn't feel like going,
Okay,
and maybe you're working at a restaurant and you just tend to be making well enough money, and that was kind
right.
of the case. Like when you work as a bus boy or a waiter here in the
Mm-hmm.
States, people
Mm-hmm.
are like it's accustomed to give tips after you eat in a restaurant for
Okay,
nobody knows
okay.
why, but essentially it
It's
turns
a
out
kind of
being
rule.
extremely good money. You
Okay.
walk around, you like as a waiter, you might walk out of the restaurant on a good night with like 150, $200 in cash. So,
Okay,
and that kind of traps people into staying into restaurants
right.
because it's such good money. And if you were to start, because you're still making minimum wage.
And before starting, people used to think that it's kind of easy money. I'm not saying that the profession is easy. It takes a lot, I think. But at the very first impression would be that let's start this job because you're getting this much of money in a single day, and that might sound like a easy money, right?
Exactly, because and it's a trap because you're making minimum wage, right? You're still making your
Right.
hourly, but you walk out with like $100 in a night. And
Mm-hmm.
where else, like, and if you divide, and you're only working like half of a shift, you're a part-time shift, right? So you're only there for maybe like 5 hours. So if you
Right.
walk out with $100, that's
Mm-hmm.
$20 an hour plus whatever
Mm-hmm.
minimum wage is, which here in California it's pretty high. It's like $13 an hour. So you're making about
Okay.
like what, $33 an hour.
Uh-huh.
And if you were to go to any other profession, then you're going to start back
Uh-huh.
out as only $13 an hour. And who's going to make that switch?
Right.
So it's a trap.
It's it's a trap. In short, it's a trap.
It's a trap.
Okay, so sir, what kind of role does your family play in your growth, and how do they support you, and what is your role to support them? Like you told me before that there is one thing that you are passionate about, that is coding, and the other thing, if I ask you, that would be your family. So how does that become your passion, and how does that support you in your personal growth?
Yeah, so my family is my number one, and they always come first. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, the besides like trying to achieve my dreams, which was having like a house and having a family with kids and stuff like that, which I was
Mm-hmm.
able to achieve, making
Mm-hmm.
sure that they have all the things that they could want is also like
Mm-hmm.
a motivating factor. So that's kind of like what continues to drive me to still grow. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but they do have like almost everything that they could ask for, and just continuing to build on that and make their lives as good as possible
Mm-hmm.
is like a driving force for me. So they play a large part in my motivation.
Mm-hmm.
My wife is always supporting me. My family, my parents and my sister have always supported me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
And I know that if I ever needed them, they would be there for me, and vice versa. So I'm trying to get to a point to where I can fully support them on anything that they ever need.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like the next big goal for me.
Mm-hmm. That's nice. I mean, the normal perception of Americans for Indians is like they don't care about family that much. I mean, when I say family, that means that they live separate from their parents and they don't care about them that much in comparison to what we generally do.
Yes.
So, is that the thing? Or when I just heard your response, I just felt that it's not like that.
No, it is like that. So even with the response that I give, it's still what you've heard, but it may not be. I don't think that I don't think that it's as cold as you might feel that it is. So here in the U.S., I think it's very
Mm-hmm.
common for people to be very individualistic, where they make
Okay.
their own decisions based off of how they feel, and they're generally going to do whatever they want. It's not like we don't
Mm-hmm.
love our parents. We
Mm-hmm.
do a lot of, well, I mean, obviously I'm not going to speak for every single individual,
Right.
but most people generally love their parents, and they try to do right by their parents. But the key determining, like the key difference here is that
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of other cultures like India, and even in Mexico, and other
Mm-hmm.
cultures as well,
Mm-hmm.
um, family is the determining force to where, like, what you're going to end up doing. They, like,
Right.
if you want to do something but they don't agree with that thing that you want to do, then that will stop you. Whereas Americans are more likely to just follow through on whatever it is that they want to do, whether their family likes that or not. So so it's kind of like that. It's not like we don't love our parents. It's just that
Uh-huh.
the family does not make decisions for the individual, but at the same time, the decisions that you make as an individual aren't necessarily reflected back on the family either, right?
So you
So,
guys respect each other's decisions.
correct. I think, not to say that in other cultures they don't. I just understand that in other cultures, that if you make a bad decision as an individual, it reflects poorly on
Right.
your family. And I don't
Right.
think that there's that kind of connection here in the States. So
Mm-hmm.
it allows for a little bit more freedom,
Mm-hmm.
but also, like, if your kids do something great, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're great yourself either. So, it's like
That's true.
your reputation belongs to you and you alone, kind of.
Okay. So, sir, on that note, what message do you have for all the viewers and listeners to this podcast called The Mayank Show?
Yeah, I would say, now that you've heard everything, I hope that you didn't go to sleep yet, because it was a long one. But other than that, I would say, just continue to, like, I hope that you find coding enjoyable. And I hope that
Mm-hmm.
you continue to follow the things that you enjoy the most and try to make that your career, whether that be coding or something else. The reason why a lot of people are able to go far in this career is because they enjoy it, and they're not necessarily just doing it for the money. The money is definitely a huge
Mm-hmm.
plus and does play a huge part.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't thoroughly enjoy it, then it's going to definitely be much more difficult for you. So at the end of the day, I would say try to do something that you really enjoy, or something that you
Mm-hmm.
love, and and maybe that thing isn't necessarily coding, but maybe you can
Mm-hmm.
mix whatever it is that you love. Let's say you like having gardens or something like that. Maybe you can make a gardening app, right? And then you
Right.
mix your skill set with something that you love, and then that will help you stay in the field longer, and potentially help you, build up your skill set by learning different ways to build things.
Mm-hmm. And adding to the same, I would say that this experience and this value adding things that Sir told about his life must have given you a perspective about life a little bit more clearer way, and it kind of also gave you the approach to how to make it large in life. Like you have already seen that how Sir made it large by from starting from just a restaurant and now making it large at AWS. So that's kind of a inspiring thing that you can take away from this conversation. So on that note, sir, thank you so much for being on the show. I really enjoyed the conversation with you.
It was nice being here. Thanks for having me on, Mayank.
Thank you so much, sir. Bye bye.
Bye.